Alright, so if you've been following any of my other tutorial series, you'll know that I did a whole series on Firestore and a CRUD, essentially a CRUD series, so create, read, update, delete. Okay, so we know how to create things. The next thing we need to do is actually read them and display them. So looking at our simulator, let's open recipe since the last time we did any modifications, okay? And if you remember, we were able to add things, and we need to actually be able to read them now so we can tell how many recipes there are, and that's a good first step. So let's go here, and first thing we'll do is actually for this, I wanted to make sure that when I add a new recipe, everything gets cleared. So let's just do that really quick, all right? So I'm going to go to new post view. I'm trying to create a new function here. Create at the bottom, I'm going to call it func. We'll say clear page. All right, and we'll just say images dot remove all. Okay, and then we'll also do the half modal underscore text field val equals nothing. Same thing for the second text field. All right, and ingredients will be equal to an empty array, and so will steps. Okay, let's just make sure, let's look at the state variables, make sure we didn't miss anything. Show sheet, show image picker, source type. It looks like those are all good. This, we don't really need to sit here and change those. New item type. All that is not really too relevant. So that's good, that's sufficient, okay? So now we just need to run this clear page every single time I successfully upload a recipe. So I'm going to go to where I had that successful recipe addition, and that is right here. So recipe submitted. Once that is successful, just come here and put clear page. Okay, and that's that. So that takes care of the first thing I want. I should probably need to, actually that should be sufficient, okay? So now I can run that, make sure that works. I had a feeling I need to do that. Okay, so while that runs, let's think about what we want to do on this next page. Let's look at that me view, okay? So if you remember what we did, here we go, it's loaded. We'll just make sure that worked, okay? And add a new recipe. Let's come here, pick a couple pictures. Done. Add an ingredient, let's just say 1 cup of potatoes. Say chopped potatoes. Submit recipe. Boom, good to go. Recipe submitted and everything went away. So that's perfect, that's exactly what we were looking for. Okay, so now let's look at this me page. Let's clean this up. So let's make, for every single one of these, what we'll need to do is we'll need to make this just look a little bit nicer. So we'll go to the for each where we had that, okay? And just so we can distinguish between every one of those, let's do the following. Let's say dot opacity, let's say background is going to be equal to, okay, we'll say be equal to color dot red dot opacity of let's make this say I. Say I over 20. Just because I'm gonna have to make that a double. And that's good, okay? And that'll do what we need there. Okay, and then the next thing we'll need to do is we will actually put, well, actually, let's make sure we got everything on the right side. So save it, run it. Okay, and while that builds, we'll start preparing the next thing we're going to do. So it'll be for each, and it'll be a for each of the number of published recipes. Okay, so for each. Okay, go here. Alas, we had no change, and the reason we had no change is because of this background color dot red. Just get rid of that really quick. let's take this one and put it outside where the frame. Let's put it outside the for each right there. Okay. And maybe we can even make that white. Okay, and I messed that up. That needs to be inside the for each, but on like the most outer element, the most upper level element. Okay, and that needed to be right there. Okay, that does the trick. And while we're here, one thing we should actually probably get around to doing is we should use the structure that we defined somewhere else. So if you remember, we created this structure called an identifiable UI image. Okay, what I'm gonna do with that is I'm actually gonna go and I'm gonna put that over here. Okay. And the next thing I actually want to do is I'm going to create a new struct called, so if we find the recipe post, what I actually want to do is I want to create a new structure here called, I'm going to try, whenever I create a version like this, okay, what you're about to see, I'm going to try to keep it close to the original one. I'm going to call this trunk recipe post, okay, and it's going to be identifiable. And it's just gonna have it's gonna have an ID, okay, and it's going to have. Actually, to be honest, it's probably all I need. Let's go ahead and just for now. Let's leave it at that. Let's just give it a UUI or an ID like that, okay. And then I'm gonna go. We'll just clean that up, okay. Command Shift K. That'll be completely fine. We'll go to the me page, okay. And now what I want to do actually is I'm going to say, well, what I wanted to do is I wanted to create a version of published-recipes.count that I could split up. But another idea of what we can do is right here. So we can just go here and say for each 0 ... and we'll say env.current user.published recipes, okay, .count, okay, and then we'll say in, and then instead of saying this is a recipe post, let's say recipe, just to make sure we have the right one, and we'll say current user.published recipes I. Okay, we'll run that. Okay, and maybe even what we can do here is we should probably create a new view that we can look at. So the same way that we created prototype views for what a post view looks like, we're going to do something similar right here for the each post on the me page. So I'm going to say file while that's working, new file. I'll say me underscore post view. Okay. And let's kind of build what this was going to look like. And we can use a canvas again because, or sorry, not that one, because things are smaller here. So we'll put a canvas, and I'm just going to go ahead and put a VStack, and I'm going to put an image. Okay, and what I'll actually do is I'm going to put that inside of a ZStack. Okay, and that image, you know what? Actually, I should probably get rid of this entire outer VStack right there. I'll just stick with with the ZStack. Okay, that image is going to be, while we prototype, it'll be system name time lapse. Okay, and for what goes on top of it, that'll be the VStack. Okay, and inside of that, I'm going to put, let's say, an HStack, and I'm going to put a spacer up top. Okay. I'm going to go to this image, I'm going to give it a frame of width of equal to UI screen .main.bounds .width, and a height let's just say 300, okay? And now what we'll do is we'll say dot background color dot blue. And then for this H stack, we'll start by putting a text on one side. We'll give it some padding. Okay. And essentially, I'm going to be recreating this right here, this H stack. Okay. I'm going to take that entire piece right there, and I might as well just put that right. So I can actually, let's just get rid of this one and place that in there. Okay. So if I save that and try to resume that, let's see what we get. Here we go. So we have a scroll view, and that scroll view has all the pieces that we needed. All right. So we're going to try to start building up this mini post view. All right. So we essentially built it up to look very similar to this, but what I'm actually going to end up doing is I'm going to make this shorter, and I'm going to take these two and toss them up top, and I'm going to put black gradient that kind of fades upwards, so it's opaque at the bottom and it's light at the top, and then these will actually be present with kind of like a white and gray font. Okay, so now that I finished rendering, there's an obvious issue here, and that issue is that I needed to take this right here. I need to put that also on the Z stack. So if I just put that on the Z stack as well, that'll push all of these up into here, because it limits the size of the spacer that is within the V stack. But otherwise, I like that. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to take that. That's exactly what you see on the screen right now. That's what I was hoping for right there. Okay. So now I'm going to take the foreground color off of each of those. Okay. And instead, I'm just going to put one foreground color on each of the V stacks. Let's say foreground color. Okay, and I'll just say dot white. Okay, and then even honestly, I actually might not even like that height of 300. I'm going to make that 250. I think that's a little more of what I'm looking for. Do the same thing here. We'll just say var post height to 300 CG float, okay, or 250, sorry. I'll just say post height, so I don't have to change it every time I make a change. That's just kind of some more concise and reusable code. And then for this one, I'll just say dot foreground color, and then it'll be dot init. I'll use this one. I'll say 0.8, 0.8, 0.8. Okay. So when that resumes, you should get more of like a gray. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is, the last thing I'll put in this Z stack here, it's going to be a linear gradient, okay? And actually, I might even make that 0.7. And then I'm going to come here and I'm going to drag a linear gradient down. So lin, okay. And I'm going to use, let's say, color dot clear to color dot black. Okay, and I might even just toss in another color dot clear there. From an aspect of spacing, and let's just say dot top, dot bottom. Okay, and so now when I put some sort of like image there, let's just kind of use a prototype image here. Let's go to image assets again. Let's just take like fade carousel 1. Okay, let's pretend that was the image. Fade carousel underscore 1. That's the one I had. You can use any image you want. Just drag and drop it into that area. I'm just going to come here and say, let's preview it. I can tell you there's already going to be an issue with the image off the get-go with its aesthetic. And if you're very familiar with this stuff, you'll know exactly what it is before you even see it. Boom, there it is. All right. So It's a pretty simple issue. All we need to do right here is we need to say dot resizable scaled to fill. And then at the end, we'll just say dot clipped. And then while that kind of thing loads, we'll do that. We'll say dot black. Okay. Or even dot. I really like using like a light gray. So 0.9, 0.9, 0.9. And I'm going to even take this down even more. Let's say this is going to be 0.6. I want to kind of darken out of the way, you know? It's like I am maybe even 0. Instead of changing it, let's actually just take that foreground color, say dot opacity of 0.8. Let's see what that does. It might not let us do that actually. So we'll just say for this whole VStack dot opacity 0.8. So it's kind of starting to move its way into the background there. That's too gone. I think 0.8 is a good number right there. So that's kind of what each of those are going to look like. So what I'm going to do now is, just as a prototype, I'm going to come here and let's go to the me post view. Okay, actually, I meant to say let's go to the me page, me view. And this is pretty crucial, but I'm going to have to move this now into here, okay? Now I'll go to the me view, okay? And in this for each section, now I'm going to say every time I had one of those, I'm not going to do this at all. Instead, I'm going to put something entirely different. I'm going to put the me. I want to put this right here. It's me post view. Okay. So that should work. Despite the error we're getting. I've always had an error. You know, I always get these kinds of errors whenever I drag and drop things in the file hierarchy. Unfortunately, it's a bit of just an inconvenience that comes with this. So what we should see is this scroll view should have a huge, essentially should have, not huge, it should have 4 of those views that we just created, all on top of each other, vertically. Okay, and so as I mentioned, you know, whenever I have, you know, a hierarchy shift here, I always get all these failures, but if I kill this and restart it, or even just run it, it'll actually run successfully. But here's what we created, okay? So that's kind of what we were hoping to create. And we're going to need to get rid of this red in the next video and kind of get rid of these red lines. But otherwise, we are all done.